With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, founder and CEO of Bbot, Steve Simoni. My man, Steve, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I'm feeling super unstoppable, Aaron. Thanks for
Yes,
having me.
that is what we like to hear. So if you guys are not familiar with Beebot, it's a company that creates mobile ordering technology for bars, restaurant, hotels, and other hospitality providers. We're going to dive into Steve's story today. But before we dive into the story of Steve and Beebot, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. Steve, what do you got for us?
All right. Well, I just told this one to my sales team, so I'll go with it. There's no next step if you're not on their calendar.
There's no next step if you're not on their calendar. Talk to me about that. Why is that? Why is that what you chose to roll with?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I got a lot. I think I have a lot of little sayings I give the team, but that one was just top of mind because I was asking my sales team. I was like, "So what's the next step with XYZ account?" And then, the salespeople like to be like, "Oh, it's going well, it's going well." And you say like, "Well, what is the actual next step?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't have a meeting." Then you get them to say it, and then so I told them like there's only a next step if you actually have a next step.
Yeah, and I think there's like a two lessons here. Obviously, that like planning ahead, having actually like there's only a next step if you have a next step, but also the power of time blocking and like putting it on the calendar, and like it won't happen until you make it happen, until you put it on the calendar. I'm sure as an entrepreneur, time blocking has been huge in your life. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not my first rodeo. I had a couple failed ventures before this.
We'll get into
Yeah, you have to be really exacting, really precise with your time. Uh, because if not, you just are speculating all day on meetings that might not help drive your business forward. So, and then there's times when you do need to speculate because you need to like have as many collisions with the universe as possible to hopefully, have that like serendipitous moment where you can grow your business. So like it's this constant like battle between like trying to focus on growing internally versus trying to collide with objects in the universe that can help grow your business.
Oh, what's the book where they talk about that idea? Tony from is it shoe? It's the Zappos guy, Selling Happiness or something like that. He talks about just like the touch points and like I'm bumping up against people. I think it's probably a conversation for another day. I mean,
Yeah,
unless you
no,
go into that, but
yeah, Tony Shea. I'm sad about the news of him.
oh no, I didn't even hear.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You see, Tony passed. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's super sad. It was a couple weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, sorry to bring that up.
No,
Well,
no worries. I don't mean to take it dark
tip
here,
of
but
the hat
he
to
was,
Tony.
yeah, he was a brilliant. I guess he was a brilliant entrepreneur. I really liked all his stuff he wrote for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's pay Tony some homage and or
Yeah, some
homage,
respects.
some respect, and check out his books. I'm happy he shared those life lessons for sure.
Yeah.
So let's get into your story. Where does it make sense to start sharing your story? I know that you met your business partners in the Navy, so maybe it starts or makes sense to start there.
Yeah, it does. I think that's a good place. So we are, me and my co-founders, we're friends first. We met in the Navy. I've known those two guys, Luke and Greg, for over 10 years. We were nuclear engineers, and really electrical engineers as our like college years. And so we were really into robotics, which is why we never changed the company name from Bbot. But after the Navy, we moved to San Francisco and like did a bunch of tech startups and eventually tried to start a robotics company called Beebot.
Okay, I'm curious. What's the B and Bbot stand for?
So the Beebot doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay.
The my niece really at the time, this was 2017. The Star Wars movies, the new ones were pretty hot, and my niece, I was home for Christmas. My niece really likes BB-8, that like circular, BB-8, like the robot. It's like a circle. So I derived Beebot from that.
Okay, awesome. So one thing I'm curious about, and I mean, obviously we're here today to really dive into Bbot and the backstory of Bbot, but as a entrepreneur, I think the lessons you can share with us, the success you had are universal, right? One of the things that comes up, and I think this is one of those lessons where you hear contrasting advice a lot in the world, right? Sometimes people say never go into business with friends or family, and other times people say only go into business with friends and family. You seem to be leaning in that direction. So what are the pros and cons of going into business with your best friends?
I would say so. my business before this was a video tech startup in San Francisco. We didn't succeed, but I went into business with a guy who I really like. I met him through business, though, so it wasn't a friend first. You know what I mean? Um, and I think for that business, we didn't succeed because as two founders there, we didn't have the skill sets required to scale and build a video tech company. So I don't think it's actually about friends versus not friends. One of the lessons learned I learned from that failure is for the next company I do, like the founding team should have most of the elements covered of like the base skills required to get it off the ground. That's like the key. I don't think it's a friends versus not friends thing. You just have to have the right.
And that's there's a lot of truth to that. And you know, I tend to lean towards, I think a business relationship is a marriage, unless I think it all depends on what kind of person you are. For me, it's about like it would have to be heavy relationship. You know, I'd have to know those people have my back and that they're in it with me, right? And I'd have to trust them with my life, like a marriage, right? But also I think that the people that are successful in life, there's always seems to be this serendipitous, like, oh, we happen to be best friends, and oh, we all happen to complement each other, and the skills we bring to the table. So it sounds like that's kind of what was going on here.
Yeah, definitely. And like, not to make fun of myself, but on the company before this, I was the person responsible for coding a lot of the video tech, and I'm not an expert in video tech, so it was really hard for me. So I didn't have the right skill to like actually succeed at that. And so in this business, I'm more of the sales marketing side, which I'm a little better at than the coding side, and those other two guys are better at the engineering. So like you got to have that right mix. Totally.
Got it. So I'm curious, and we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but what was the video tech startup?
Oh, I was I was trying to do like a Snapchat for sales teams. Like it's like a video selling tool. So like you would send like video messages and of your pitch to prospects.
Okay.
It was kind of a bad idea. Salespeople, I learned when I was trying to like get account executives in Silicon Valley to use it. They didn't really like going on camera. They'd rather just like call or email the prospect. So it was hard to get adoption.
So you started Bbot in 2017 with your partners Greg and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on between the failed startup and 2017?
Well, I love the journey of entrepreneurship. It's certainly not about the money, because you could definitely make more money just at a big tech company. We like trying to build and start companies, and we were winding VidFluent down, and I was talking with Luke and Greg over some beers. They had actually approached me for an overhead robotics business where it's like you've seen like sushi conveyor belts.
Yeah.
They wanted to basically put those on ceilings to deliver drinks and food from like basically goes up and over across the ceiling. So like a sushi conveyor belt, but more high tech. And so as you know, we're all robotics, electrical engineers. It was an exciting thing to build together. So we just started kind of hacking on that nights and weekends. No company in mind at the time.
Yeah. And that was 2017.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so
what was going on before that do you think might have set you up for success?
Just being out in San Francisco. And
was it right off the heels of the field venture with the video tech startup?
I like went back and licked my wounds at a company to make some money. And like nights and weekends when I was at that company, we were hacking on Beebot.
So you already pointed out that it's important to know your lane and to stay in your lane and to surround yourself with people who are stronger than you are in certain verticals. What were the other lessons you learned with that failed startup?
Well, I learned a lesson about, and I didn't follow this lesson. So I learned a lesson at VidFluent of like, you should just kind of listen to the customer and build what they want. And that's not rocket science. But then with Beebot, we ignored that again at first and just built a robot we wanted and didn't talk to any like restaurants or bars about it. So I knew the lesson, but we didn't want to listen to that lesson. And so then we sold one of these robots to a nightclub who actually wanted it though. But then we found out what they really wanted was more powerful software. Okay. And once we started listening to them, well, then the rest is history.
That's a good cue for our first break. We're going to take our first break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to dive into deeper into this lesson that you're sharing with us.
Yeah.
All right, we're back, and you just dropped a huge lesson on us. The power of just having a minimal viable product. We're not even necessarily that, but the more importantly, starting with something and just being receptive to what the market is asking for, and they'll tell you exactly what to do. And that was a lesson you learned. So what was it exactly that people were asking for?
Okay, so the robot actually is really cool. It's still operational. It brings the drinks from the ceiling down to your table where the QR code is. This was
Can
20.
I install this in my living room?
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll get you one. So
Yeah.
this was 20 early 2018, and you ordered from a QR code. That's how the robot knew which table to drop it at. And so that was pretty powerful at the time. People were like ordering on their phone at these bars, and a couple other bars saw it and were just like, "Oh, can I have that but without the robot? Like I want my guests to be able to order on their phone from a QR code in 2018." And so we said, "Oh yeah, sure, I guess." I mean, we were like, "We just built these robots, but if you just want the software, fine. Sure."
But it's huge, and I think that what's the big lesson there? Just regurgitate it one more
Yeah, I
time.
mean, the major lesson is just build something the customer wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this time, so why do you think that was a demand? Why was the market asking for this?
So it was a small market that were asking. It's much more people asking for it now, but then it was just crowded bars. Like there was a bunch of crowded bars in Brooklyn, in the New York market that were just trying to figure out how to solve a bottleneck issue.
Yeah. So, take us through like what obviously the bottleneck issue with a bunch of people trying to go to the bar or the servers being bottlenecked at the POS system. When they started using this technology, what was the report back? How was their life getting better? And like, what were the efficiencies, bottom line? Like,
Yeah, I would say
how was
that
everything changing?
this is the cool. I always get the best quotes from customers. This is the coolest thing that I've been told, or I think one of the coolest things is just you could have. So the owners of this one bar told me, Steve, you could have the best waiter, waitress, server in the world. But if the table is holding them up, if the table's asking for recommendations, asking for more details, complaining about something, then there's a bunch of other tables in her section that aren't getting to ask. So even with the best staff in the world, you still can't get maximum service. And that's why I like the QR code ordering system.
Yeah. So originally it was used for the being able to place orders. At what point did you guys evolve and be able to actually do the whole transaction from placing your
Mhm.
order to paying and leaving? Was that at this point were you able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, so the we launched it with the order and payment at the same time, and now we've added things like tabs, starting tabs, and closing that tab out at the end. So it always started with the order, pay, and tip up front, which people thought was weird that you tip up front, but it seemed to not care. The guests didn't seem to mind.
Okay. Is that still the case now? Is it tip up front?
Well, it depends. I mean, if with other functionality we've launched, you can start a tab and close it at the end. But most of our customers, yeah, you just still order and pay as you go.
Okay. Got it. So, I I feel like we might have like kind of sped or fast forward through the evolution of Bbot.
Yeah.
Um, you guys started again in 2017. So it took about a year from 2017 to 2018 to actually have a functioning robot arm.
Robot, like crane system that goes on the sea. It's like track based.
Okay.
So no
So
arm. We didn't do an arm because we're not making things. It was a delivery robot. Yeah.
So is that still in the play for you guys? Is that still what you're trying to work towards, or has that become just an afterthought?
Yeah, we're more of a software company now. However, we still support our first customer who uses two of those robots. It's called Tokyo Kitty in Cincinnati. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They leverage them. It's very successful there, downtown Cincinnati. And then there's a couple other restaurants that are trying to switch to full ceiling robotics right now. I can't name them because they're under NDA, but we'll probably sell a bunch more robots in the next year. Yeah.
I honestly think that like that's still a very viable product in the future. And I think you're going to start to see people wanting this, especially now. It's never been harder to find people to work. People are still collecting unemployment. And when do you think that demand is going to start to kind of rear its head? Because I think it's right
I mean,
around.
I'm actually seeing some interesting like demand percolating. Is okay. So here's the cool trend that's happening. So now everyone's buying our software and our competitors have a similar product to us. And that's all on, those QR codes are all going on tables now. So now it's just one more, that's kind of like the first step. Once those are all on the table, it's just another transition to the robot. So actually, like, all the competitors are just helping us out.
Wait, explain that a little more. I don't quite understand
So
why.
like right now, what's happening in restaurants is pretty insane. Like it's just, I mean, I don't sleep much right now. It's crazy. Like we have a couple competitors too, and all these restaurants are buying this QR code order and pay at the table technology. So that's just happening in like restaurants everywhere.
Yeah.
And so now once guests are ordering and paying on their phone, it's natural now to then upgrade your restaurant to automate it even further and buy some ceiling robots. So it's kind of just, it's pretty cool.
That was one of my interests. So I mean, you guys have been around since 2017. Obviously, 2020 hits, right? Everyone's like, oh, the world's falling around us. Like, what was going through your mind? Were you like, oh my God, I think we're like set up for like super success right now? Like, what was going through your mind?
Okay, so this is the other part of entrepreneurship. Like we were growing pretty well, but it wasn't like exponential growth. It was like linear growth. Like people thought our tech was cute, like, oh, QR code at the table. Some restaurants needed it. A lot of them weren't that interested. 2020 hits. I mean, that's what I'm saying. What's happening? Restaurants totally changed their view of this kind of digital menus and using digital technology inside of restaurants. And yeah, I mean, it's been pandemonium for a year.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, what happened with COVID-19 is all these things were happening. I think you're evidence of this, you're proof of this. All these things, like the industry was changing, the technology was up, like the things we could do was just exponentially growing. Like the creativity around service or just streamlining process, all the tools were there, technology was there. The restaurant industry has just been super slow to adopt it. And I think it's because the owners were afraid that consumers wouldn't want to break from the status quo or whatever habits they're used to. COVID-19 hits and we were forced to use and to accelerate all these technologies that were already there at our disposal. We had no option. That was the only thing we could do to stay in business. And then I guess what I'm hearing from you is that because you were so ahead of the curve, because you already had this ordering solution, and then you also beyond that have the robotic solution, that you were just ahead of the curve, and now all these other companies that are also doing exactly what you're doing are just helping break the mold a little bit faster, and you're sitting pretty because now you have the delivery solution too with the technology, like the robot solution. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, I would add one more thing I'm seeing on top of that though, and this is the most exciting part. Not to get ahead to where Beebot's heading next, but
We'll
the
talk about that for sure.
So all the restaurants now are embracing, off the shelf digital technologies, whether that's Bbot or any number of Beebot like companies. What I'm finding that's really cool though is restaurants are actually also now becoming tech companies. Like in that, even a small business owner is thinking, hey, how can I customize this solution a bit more? And so I think right now, like, I'm excited about what I'm seeing in restaurants and restaurateurs thinking like tech companies more, demanding more out of these solutions, and even some of them building some stuff in house. So the next decade is going to be incredibly exciting for.
It's true, man. And there's a book, you probably read it. It came out in 2012, Abundance. Are you familiar with that book?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he and what he projects back in 2012 is happening now, where we have like this economy of DIY, right? And the more like all this information is available to us on YouTube channels and videos, like we can anything you want to learn, you can learn. You can get it like an electrical engineering degree or a nuclear degree online to set you up to be able to like do the stuff that you're talking about. And everybody loves food. It's universal. We all eat it. So you're having all these people with unique skill sets coming to the table and finding solutions with their unique backgrounds, or they're just figuring out how to do it themselves. And we're just creating solutions left and right. And it's a really exciting time.
Yeah. Restaurants and restaurateurs are like, they're now that they've like looked at the landscape and seen what's available out there, they want even more. Like sometimes my company can't even satisfy their needs. And so I'm excited about like what they're going to come up with next. And that drives our product roadmap, but also we would like to build a tool that is like self-service for them so they can extend it. Because I honestly do see the next 10 years as restaurants doing a lot of their own tech.
Yeah, and honestly, we're gonna have to, because the market's changing so fast. The There's fewer and fewer jobs available. I don't know if it's because there's more and more. I don't, it's. I'm not sure exactly why. What are some of your thoughts as to why we're leaning more towards technology and less towards human labor?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, and I'm just going to steal quotes from my customers. Uh, so I had a customer before COVID using our tech and after, and their experience after COVID using our same product is, Steve, it's way easier now. The guests accept it, but more importantly, the guests. It's not about the guests. Our staff just accepts it. Our staff says, "Oh yeah, it actually is easier. I don't know why we fought this system before." Um, so they just said it's way easier. Just a mind shift. Sometimes something like a global pandemic can just change people's mind.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to address and acknowledge the comments coming through in the chat section.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have time for Q&A. I see your questions coming up. So if you do have a question, make sure you put it into the chat section in case you aren't here at the end. And I'll be sure to ask those questions for you. So thank you for typing in your questions. So I think one of the issues with people being afraid of adopting technology is because they're afraid of being replaced by technology, and jobs going away. What are your thoughts on that?
Just haven't really seen it in terms of, well, in most of history, like people always find a way to work, and we're beasts of burden. Over the last 200 years, people said we're gonna tech. That's been a common thing for hundreds of years, I guess, and it just hasn't really happened. We've found ways to invent podcasts, and now look at you, you're the podcast host. I mean, just people do find new stuff, and then just that's in the macro. In the micro data, just I haven't seen it. Like we have the system in hundreds of restaurants, and they hired tons more runners. The jobs change, but there's still a bunch of people there. You can't run it without people.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm only referencing this book a ton right now because I literally listened to it on my way down and back from Florida. So, but to address that conversation of why I don't think we should be afraid of being replaced by technology is because I think the world is moving in a direction where one of the arguments he makes in that book, and his name is escaping me right now, Peter Diamandis, I think I'm not quite sure how to say it, but Peter Diamandis is his name. So he makes the point that like one of the biggest shortages right now in the world is that we don't have human potential, like or the human mind is preoccupied with covering things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, making sure that we have food and shelter, and making sure we have security. And we live in a world where all of our energy just goes into satisfying those most primordial like needs, the things we need. And if we make those things universal, like universal healthcare, and the idea of actually food becoming free is a real conversation, like within 10 or 15 years away. And the question is, okay, well, if food becomes free, what are restaurants going to do? And the answer to that is, well, it's not like the most successful restaurateurs know that it's not about the margins you're making on the food. It's about the experience that you're delivering. And that's what the best restaurateurs do, is they deliver hospitality and a great experience. So if we can free up the human bandwidth to not be focused on doing the thing like taking the order or even making the food, which is kind of scary to think because there's going to be robots to do that, then that's freed up human potential bandwidth to figure out how to create a better experience, or to do things like to have a better relationship with guests and to walk around and really engage with people, So I don't know. What are your thoughts when I'm sharing that?
I mean, I think just overall, it goes back to what I'm seeing out there in the market, which is when people talk, and investors do this, they always make this mistake. When people talk about restaurants, they talk about it as this like broad category, when actually it's like 1,000 micro categories. Like there are so many, each restaurateur I talk to like has a little bit of a different angle on what experience they want to provide. And that then dictates what kind of tech they want, or what kind of staffing they want, or what kind of decor they want. Even just the service style, how the ordering should flow. There's just so many different like unique micro segments inside of restaurants. So it's like hard to like make a broad it's really hard to make a broad generalization across that category because they're all so different. And I think that's what's really exciting for me.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I got a little distracted, but I was really
I
interested.
don't know. I didn't mean to dodge.
No, man, you're fine.
It's
I know
hard to make your restaurants are just so varied.
for sure, and I'm sure the folks that are joining us today are like, Eric, ask more questions about Bbot and the functionality of Bbot.
No, I love the philosophical. We can go philosophical.
So let's just talk more about Bbot. Let's get back because I'm getting distracted because I love
Let's
talking.
talk free will.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
so in reference to Beebot, so where are you today? Paint that picture of what you kind of painted the picture of how you guys started and how you started paying attention to the market and listening to what they want. Where is Beebot today? I know you guys have kind of like two verticals. You have the in venue vertical and the online vertical. So get into those, break those two things down for us real quick.
Yeah, where we're at today is we're selling two different products. One is our in venue QR codes at the table, order, pay, tip. And that's really focused on the in-venue restaurant operation. And then we have a white label online ordering product, very similar to something like a Chow Now.
What do you mean by white label?
White label meaning we brand it to your restaurant's brand. So not on Bbot. It's not on like a marketplace, just white labeled to your restaurant. Very inexpensive product. So it's targeted for the small businesses that need a white label branded solution for their online ordering.
Okay. And that's right through the website, right? It's not an app. It's not like anything like that you have to plug in. It's like it's built right into the website.
Correct. That's right into the website, and it's at a price point that a small business can afford.
Okay. So let's start with the in venue. Let's pretend I'm a consumer. I enter your restaurant. Take me through the journey of Beebot.
Yeah. So usually we recommend like a host or we call them like a champion or a captain rather, is greeting the guest just like a normal restaurant. They sit you down at the table and explain how the ordering system works at this restaurant. So you kind of change the restaurant flow a bit and say like, hey, welcome. I can take your order, or you can put in anything you want anytime through this system right here. And that's the flow. Like that's the simple, basic, easy flow.
So this person will probably have a tablet in their hand, or they can write it down and enter it at the POS if they want to. So you're giving that person who doesn't maybe have a phone or doesn't like to use technology the option to order the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, so they could have a Beebot handheld device. So we offer the server, whatever you call this role. We like to call it the floor manager. They can have a handheld, and they can take your order right there. And it integrates with the guest as well. The guest can also place an order on their own phone.
Okay. So if the guest chooses to place the order on their own phone, they're just scanning the QR code on the table.
Yep, exactly. That pulls in the menu from Beebot or integrated with their point of sale.
Okay. So backpedal a little bit. If they choose to go with the option of the server, and they place that initial order, does it kind of mess with like the operations of like, do we have to be more mindful of like, oh, this person's probably, if they want anything else, they're probably not going to use the app because they placed their order with me? How do you address that issue?
So we're keeping track of it at the table management level. So essentially, that's my way. So essentially, like if we have a system where, like, let's say you and I order on our phone, the server can see that on their handheld and add to that same check.
QR. Okay. So, got it. So if we choose to use our own phone to scan the QR code, then a web browser pops up, and what is that web browser?
So it's just for iPhone, it's defaults to Safari. Android, probably Google Chrome. We have a mobile responsive page branded to that restaurant's brand. So you're not going to like the point of sale company's website. You're scanning the QR code, you're getting a branded experience, and you're basically selecting what you want and sending that into the kitchen or bartender yourself.
Okay. So so one of the things you said, you could either use the software on your phone, which is the Safari website, or it could redirect to the POS system.
So you can either use, so the menus that are coming in on the browser are integrated with the point of sale menus. So you keep your inventory the same as a restaurant owner.
Now, how many at this time? How many? I know you guys integrate with Toast because that's one of the ways I discovered you guys. Is people are saying, "Oh, this Bbot integration with Toast." Who else are you guys integrating with at this time?
Yeah, so we focus on casual dining segment, which those are Toast, Micros, Aloha are three of our major ones, and then later in this year we'll finish up our Upserve and Square integrations.
Okay, beautiful. And that's Square for restaurants or all Square?
It would be all Square.
Okay, awesome. So what other element as far as the user end have we not discussed as far as how to use this that you think we need to discuss?
That's pretty straightforward on the consumer side. We're very focused, something that differentiates us on the operator side. So we have a couple pieces of hardware that are proprietary that let us do some unique things. For
Like
example,
that was
if
gonna be
I,
my follow-up questions. Yeah.
oh yeah, so for example, we're very operationally focused. Um, like if you and I are at table one and we order 2 martinis, based on which QR code we scanned, we can send that to the correct bartender. So that's something very unique and something that's kind of missed on some of these online ordering competitors or other companies is they can't route menu items based on which table they're at in the restaurant when the guest self orders. And that's something we specialize in, which allows us to do large, really large, high volume venues.
So you mentioned that it can go with two. You can choose to which bartender it goes to. So if you have like multiple bars, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Which normally how a point of sale company does that is the server walks to the correct point of sale station.
Ah,
So point of sale companies are not very well equipped to handle this new type of situation. And so that's when they bring in Bbot as a partner to do the dynamic routing based on QR code.
got it. So one of the follow-up questions is what else makes you unique? So you have the ability to kind of route the order to the appropriate destination, is what I'm hearing. Is that a good way to regurgitate what you said?
Yeah. So yeah, dynamic routing of the order, dynamic fulfillment. So some restaurants are really trying to optimize labor. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you and I scan the QR, it might tell us to go pick at the counter when the drink is ready from the bartender. But
Okay.
on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they might bring in serving staff and runners, and they can in software switch the logic of what the QR code does. So this allows this. So the printer routing plus the dynamic staffing model that we provide allows you to really optimize your labor force. And those are two things that are pretty much only we do in
Okay.
the world.
So on the restaurants end, we talked a lot about from the user experience, but on the restaurants end, if you scan a QR code at a specific table, call it table 5, what does the ticket say? Like like is it just say like just know to bring it to that table? Like are there best practices associated with this?
Yeah, we're at a lot of online ordering systems are just trying to do the COVID land grab and not really innovating here. They make the guests type in their table number. We can actually pre-code the logic up front where the QR code is unique at every table, and that'll just embed and print on the ticket which table it's from. And you don't have to do like a free text field where the guest can mess up and do a wrong data entry of what table they're at.
Yeah. As far to kind of round off the in venue conversation, I know the focus here, obviously, a restaurant unstoppable, but this goes the application of Beebot goes far beyond just like casual dining. What are the other venues that you're seeing a lot of success with Beebot in?
Yeah, so we're seeing success with. I think your question is more than just casual dining places. What else am I seeing?
Yeah, like where, like, because I know that fast or food halls. This is a great application for food halls with a lot of different venues, right? Back to that point that you're making earlier, is that like you can treat each one of those venues like a different bar, right? So now it knows, like, yeah, that's a good question. What happens when you have like 8 or like 20 on a huge food hall,
Yeah.
different restaurants using the same technology? Does it ever like, does it just a different account for each venue?
Yeah, so we actually built a data model underneath the covers that allows you to combine separate vendors into one checkout flow and
Okay.
dynamically send and split the payment and order across multiple. It actually really helps the food halls with credit card fees because they can share that fee, essentially. Uh, so yeah, we handle that with food halls. So food halls is one of the segments that is we're really strong in, and then hotels, hotel rooftop bars, bowling alleys, like things that are like more entertainment, like just a lot of different things besides just regular casual dining that this product is great in.
What about like concert venues?
We have a few big venues, very large venues, and it's great there too, as long as the staff is prepared to make a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you have a venue of 500 seats, right? On the back of every seat, you just put a QR code, and now you know exactly which seat to run the food to.
Yeah, those things really need the dynamic routing of the drinks. Like, they need a Bbot because they have like 5 or 6 bars, and that you got to group the sections by which bar it prints
When you
out
say a
based on the
Beebot,
QR
you
code.
mean one of those things that drops from the ceiling.
Well, they need an OG Bbot too. They need some OG Bbots for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we covered the in venue pretty well. Unless there's something that you think we're missing from the in venue perspective.
No, I think that was pretty good.
Okay. So now just real quick on the off premise experience. So why did you see a need to focus a whole different vertical just on off premise, and how is that different?
The main difference is most off premise happens like you're sitting at home and on the couch and you want some delivery or pickup. So you kind of do that from a laptop or a desktop experience. So you kind of wanted to optimize for a different device you're ordering from. And then also the feature set's a little different because instead of, a 1 minute delivery time of a drink to your table, it's now like 30 minutes traversing over ground to your house or an apartment. So
Yeah.
you have to integrate with like a driver network, or you need to do like zip code and radius stuff to enable the restaurant to do their own delivery drivers. So just it's a different feature set essentially.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things I'm curious about is I don't necessarily I see the in venue application. It's like clear as day, because of being able to tie the order to a specific table to eliminate the bottlenecking, all that. What's stopping somebody from just having an online ordering like portal, uh, on their website, like order here? You know what I mean? Like, what exactly does Bbot do that makes that online or the out of venue experience better?
We are that order here button that keeps you on their website ordering on the website. So we are that button. There are, if you've noticed, I'm sure as someone who's in this industry, there are like 30 or 40 major companies that do that. But yes,
Yeah.
that order, we are that button.
Got it. So I think those are most of the big questions I have. I do want to leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A, but before we get to the Q&A, and thank you guys for being patient. I see your questions coming in. What's the future of Bbot look like? Give us a glimpse of some of the new projects you guys have on the horizon, and how that's going to make you better.
So 2 major futures. One is we're going to double down on investment in making that in-venue experience the most unique, cleanest experience, so that restaurants think of us when they think about in-venue mobile ordering. And then the other thing, just following the trend and seeing all these restaurants, like I said, are in some ways becoming more technology focused, more of a tech company, and that's going to happen over the next 5 years. So we're also going to make a self-service API, low code, no code, where restaurants can configure their own setups and extend the product in their own way, whether they have a friend who's a developer or whether they can make some templates themselves. That's like the product of the future. We're building that now.
Okay.
Secret. Yeah.
So if I'm a restaurateur and I'm hearing this right now, and I go, oh my God, I can manipulate and create my own process and system that works specifically for my needs. Where do I go to learn how to do this stuff?
Yeah. So this is going to be another year-long project for Beebot, where we've been ramping up, our engineering team in secret, and we're really hacking at this self-service solution now. We'll have tons of guides. We're gonna have all kinds of material. It's gonna be like a Udacity, like Coursera type courses on how you can really own your own tech. And Bbot can be just one of the components you leverage in building on top your own setup.
And this is a huge solution because for the past 10 years, what's been plaguing the industry is that all this technology that we invest in, all the APIs they don't talk well. We can't get our stuff to work together. So if you can create your own solution, customize it for what your specific needs are, it's like the equivalent to like having a 3D printer.
Yeah,
literally do whatever you want.
I call it Roblox. It's Roblox for restaurants.
Yeah.
I really feel passionate about this. The biggest frustration I had in building this company is that if I wanted to integrate with any other restaurant tech, you have to talk to an army of business development people, and they stonewall you for months.
See, this is a perfect. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No. So that this is like I'm on a crusade now to make it so that any restaurant can just use tech without having to like hit an army of business development people.
So this is a perfect example of back to what we were talking about earlier when we think of, like all these technologies are going to replace people. Yeah, maybe like dishwashers and might have trouble finding jobs and things like that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we need to free up that potential human power, like that brain power, but what this is going to do is create so much. Think about the jobs that like you're going to be able to create. We have Adam in here, Adam Johnson right now. I'm thinking of him, like somebody like that, who's like, I can get in there and I can start developing skills on how to create custom solutions for restaurants. And now you're creating opportunity. You're leveling the playing field.
I'm on a
whole new vertical. Like,
I am so excited about this. I'm trying to eliminate the jobs. I'm trying to eliminate are business development people. I'm trying to eliminate them, and we're going to do that.
Yeah,
and we're going to give power back to the restaurants.
But I guess we might eliminate a lot of low, like basic, like frontline jobs. But at the same time, we're going to be spreading the wealth out, and we're going to be creating a lot more middle class type of jobs. And I think that's a good thing. I think we need to free up that human potential, brain power, to like not wash dishes and to code solutions for restaurants. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I think the future is really, really hopeful.
Roblox. Its future is Roblox,
right? What about any other integrations? I know of one that I've heard rumor of. I don't know if it's under wraps, and I don't know if you're privy to talk about it, but I figured I'll give you an opportunity to talk about any other maybe website development integration opportunities coming up in the future.
I want to keep it all under wraps for now. Team's working hard on some really cool new stuff. I'm keep it under wraps.
You don't have to name the names of the business, but give me an example. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I mean, the main thing is just so you should know what we're building is it's a race to this self-service, low code / no code world for restaurants where they can configure their own systems.
We're back and we're ready for some Q&A. Our first question is coming from Ramon. Ramon, hit us. What do you got? Feel free to give yourself a plug to you and your business.
Sounds good. Just more tacos here from Michigan. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for your time, man. Absolutely insane what you're doing, pioneering this industry into a new direction, man. Thank you. So that being said, with crypto being so hot and me having a little bit of it, would you see in the future you guys accepting cryptocurrency? Because I feel like that would be a great way for people to start using it on the daily, just as a way of payment.
Yeah, let me do the product manager thing and ask you for a quick second. So let's say there was an option if you built in your restaurant experience where like when they check out, maybe they could round up the checkout and convert some of their money to Bitcoin. Because not everyone's going to have Bitcoin when they come in, but a small percentage will. So do you also want guests to be able to like easily convert their existing money to Bitcoin, or is it just purely if they have Bitcoin already?
I would say so. Like I own some, right? So like I'm going to my favorite taco shop, right? I want to use some of my Bitcoin to purchase some of them because they might be accepting Bitcoin, so they would do their charges and stuff like that.
So yeah, I think that so we're built under the covers. We're adding a product called Spreedly, which allows us to take different types of payment over time. And so, again, we're trying to create an elegant solution for our industry, but underneath it, there's some other tech we use. So if those platforms are going to let us add that, then there's no reason we wouldn't. So something like a Stripe or a Spreedly, if they make it easy for us to give access for restaurants to crypto, we're 100% in.
Yeah, I'm excited. Already.
Great question, Ramon. Thank you. All right, Wes, I'm coming to you next. Just unmute your mic and the floor is yours.
All right. Really appreciate your time. I really like what Bbot has to offer. There's a lot of interesting applications. And so I was listening, and I thought Beebot was already open API. It kind of sounds like maybe that's coming or just being enhanced. So given that it's currently open API, that already allows for sort of wider use and integration. And I'm kind of curious, just what is the most interesting or unique integration that you've seen?
Yeah, so I would say we are an open API now. We invite any partner to build on it. What I really want to get to, which is coming, is full self-service, meaning you can generate your own API credentials right through our website without having to even get approval. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So the self-service is coming, and I'm very excited about that. Integrations that our partners have already built that we really like. I really like all of the guest feedback and intelligence integrations that are on our platform already. So something like a Yumpingo or Ovation. If I'm ordering at the table, we can automatically text the guests 30 minutes after their meal with one of our partners' links to do a review, and that gives the restaurant all of the data of how that went. And so love that kind of integration extending our platform.
So I'm excited for this application with Wes and what he's got going on, because he's got it's going to be a game. You can explain it better, Wes. Explain.
Yeah. So what I'm working on right now is starting a board game cafe. And so a couple different legs to that. The venue that I'm working towards is a 1950s bowling alley that's had the lanes taken out of it, with sort of a goal to have like a patio area that doesn't exist. We'd have to build it out. But sort of future plans, Bbot just seems to fit really well when you have the ability to say, I don't like these items going out to the patio. I'm in Mattoon, Illinois, so the windy Midwest, and there's just some stuff that you don't want out there. And then for my application, I think that when you start building out menus and inventory, and you say, well, this is a menu in the POS, but it's actually a library of board games that people can rent and check out. And you can set up an inventory. You can 86 the board games when the library is all out there, and maybe have a quarantine period or given COVID times. And
I love that.
So yeah. I'm curious, Steve, with that concept that's just dropped on you, what are some of the considerations that immediately come to your mind?
So, Wes, this is one of the reasons we're building the self-service API as well. Is look, you could probably get it all done with out of the box Beebot. However, ordering a board game is actually a little different than ordering a burger, in that you return the item into stock instead of eating. So there are some edge cases that come with that. I'd love to definitely dive in with you on that, but it certainly can work as we have it now. But I actually think you're going to want to add a little bit of magic on top of something like a Beebot order management system to really tailor the returning of the game in like the time window that it's out for.
Magic, so is that a board game reference?
I would say, by the way, I love the board game idea. This is a fun fact about me. I'm a big board game and card game person. I'm the 2013 Game of Thrones, the card game national champion. I am a competitive, and I was a competitive Magic player. So
all right,
I'm like super geeky and I love like European style board games like Agricola, Power Grid. stuff like that.
That's the plan. We're not necessarily trying to be the tournament magic host spot. It's new people. That's the market, is bring new people to the industry.
Oh yeah, I always try to get new people into like there's like the gateway drug board games, and then you get them to the next level of board game after the gateway drug. I always my wife and I.
Tell me the electrical and nuclear engineer likes nerdy board games. I would have never guessed. I love it. Wes, do you have any other follow-up questions before we move on?
I have several questions. I can keep going, unless you want to bounce
around.
around.
If you can kind of refine your question internally, and we'll jump over to Martha. Martha, if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic. I know you have two questions.
Okay.
Let's just start with that first question. Yeah. Demographic.
Oh, well, if we could just go to the second question, because I feel like you did answer the first question pretty well.
Okay.
So my husband and I were looking to start a barbecue restaurant. And what we want is our ordering process is, people are going to go to the counter. They're going to order their food. We think that going to the counter is part of the experience. Like, you get to see brisket getting sliced in front of you, and just, see the food kind of prepared in front of you. That's something that we want as part of the process. But, typically when you do that, you get a number and you go sit down at your table. What I was wondering is, do you have any customers with a similar ordering model that utilize Bbot?
Absolutely.
And how do they do it?
So the counter model, you would use a traditional POS, like a Square or a Toast. And then we have a lot of customers that do that. And then they have a separate smaller menu for snacks and drinks with Beebot at the table for reorders. And then you text them to come pick that up at the counter. So you're still doing a lot of our customers have the counter experience, and then still use something like us to upsell at the table for reorders.
I really love that.
It works really well.
Really do.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know that such a thing existed, but I think it's pretty awesome. And then you probably can get into this later. Like, I'm just trying to figure out what everything's going to cost me. So how much does something like that go for a month? Just because I'm just trying to put together like initial budgets and stuff like that. And it just sounds like a really cool offering. And it's something that I would like to do. I just want to see if we can budget for it.
Yeah, we're small business focused. So we've always been small business focused. So we're priced accordingly. Our software runs $99 a month for that whole setup. And then there's just like similar to Square or Toast, like there's always like the processing fees that are at like the 3% or less range.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions from or Martha, do you have a follow-up question? Good.
I think I'm good. Like, the other question I had was about demographics. But I just like the idea that you mentioned earlier that, you could still have a waitress come to your table. You could still have that personal experience. And that's, I think, part of, the dining experience. I really want to get into like hospitality, making people feel welcome. And I just don't want to see that get lost, but I do like the idea of, having someone greet you when you walk into the restaurant, make you feel welcome, go through the system. I feel like that it's not really being taken away when you do that. And then you eventually will have, if you do order more food on your app, or you could actually just get back in line if you want more food.
Yeah, absolutely.
So specifically, Martha, I think when Martha was concerned, I think she has an older demographic, and I'm curious about this too.
It's a mix.
Yeah. Have you seen the adoption of Beebot? How has that been with the older demographic?
One of my favorite stories is we have a bar by Madison Square Garden, and before COVID, there was like a big Billy Joel concert, and there was 4 like older women at a table, and they were all ordering on their QR code system on Beebot. And the one lady, I introduced myself to do some product research, and the one lady was like, finally, I don't have to split the wine bill with these women. I don't drink. I always go out with these 4 ladies, and I don't have to pay for their wine anymore. This is great. So I actually think the older generation is going to like it.
Yeah. Awesome. And if nobody else has any other questions, I think I can come back to Wes. Actually, Ramon, I'll come back to you. It's been a while since we heard your voice. Lowering your hand, unmute your mic. Go for it.
So you talked about the OG Bbot. What are the costings of that as well too?
The OG Beebot is $1,000 per robot per month. If you want to do a full robotic bar, it's about, you need 3 of them. So about 36 grand a year, you could have a fully robotic restaurant.
Minimum wage is going to $15 an hour. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Hey, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. $1,000 sounds like a lot, but
it's actually, yeah, I mean, anyone who wants to interested in that product line can talk to the bar owner in Cincinnati. I can set up that appointment. It's really helped their business tremendously.
To pay somebody to run food at a minimum wage of $15 an hour would be $2,400 a month.
Well, I'm in Michigan, so Cincinnati's 3-hour drive. You know.
Oh, you got to go check it out, dude. Tokyo.
Yeah, for sure.
It's sweet. Yeah, you'll love it. I mean, it's awesome.
Thanks for bringing it on my radar, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wes, coming back to you, my man.
All right. So I've got some questions about sort of the dot menu domain. So when you do the restaurant, somebody uses the QR code, or even if they're doing online ordering, it takes them from the restaurant website to, in my case, the name would be like Wandering Whistler Cafe .menu instead of .com. And then that would have sort of a banner at the top with my branding and whatever I want, and then sort of the menu breakdown, and you get into like a list of sort of rectangular boxes with the menu item and a picture if I want it. Is that pretty accurate for what the breakdown is?
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you had different menus, maybe if you had a board game menu, those would be along the top as well. You could do different menus, in different brands. And then also, so that's exactly right. You don't have to do a dot menu. We just do that as like a branding thing, and we buy a lot of those for our customers. You can do a .com as well.
Okay. So there's a school of thought that sort of taking you off the website and onto something separate and having that that sort of click out is sort of a drawback that should be avoided. Do you consider your solution to be leaving the website, and do you consider that a drawback?
Actually, I do agree with your school of thought. We do encourage people who have guests coming to their homepage to embed. You can either embed Bbot by subdomaining. So like you stay on your domain. So order.yourdomain.com. So subdomaining keeps them on your domain. And we set that up for a lot of our customers too.
Okay. And a follow-up off of that is that the sort of white box with the menu item and a picture is kind of pretty common within the industry for a lot of the early adopters and the people that are migrating. If I need an online ordering solution, let's put something together. And so let's say that you have like a really branded website where you have, maybe you're an Asian place and you have like rice paper that your menu items are on normally. And now you go to online ordering and you've got these white boxes and it's kind of blocky. And is there any ability or plans to sort of integrate with customers' existing branding or examples?
We can go a lot further than what you see there. If you go to like rooftop.menu, you can see an example of like changing the background, like changing the colors further in the fonts and getting into your branding even more. We're always extending that functionality. And then lastly, again, back to the long-term vision of Roblox for restaurants. Restaurants should be able to make their own templates on top of our system as well.
That'd be really cool.
But if you look at rooftop.menu, that's like an example where you can.
Okay.
All right. I think those are all the questions. I don't see any other hands going up. Before we say goodbye, Steve, any final thoughts? Any last words?
No, I really appreciate everyone's time. I saw the cool Mexico shirt from the Adam guy who didn't ask me any questions. Adam, I like that. Nice to meet you. But no other questions,
Awesome. And I will say that Bbot, well, I want to say personally, thank you, Steve, for sponsoring Restaurant Unstoppable podcast. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without people like you guys sponsoring the show, supporting the show. And for the record, I reached out to Bbot to be a sponsor because they're being recommended on the show. And I really try to partner with the tools and services my guests are most recommending. And if you guys are interested in Bbot, head over to meetbbot.com/unstoppable. And if you use that link, you will get a 3-month free access to Bbot for using that link. So, pretty great deal. And thank you for the incentive, and just thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Oh, wait, how do we connect?
What do you mean?
Is there a way to obviously get Bbot.com, but any other way, any other social handles or anything?
Meetbbot.com, meet Bbot. It's meet Bbot on Twitter, meet Bbot on Instagram, and then steve@bbot.menu. Anyone can email me.
Oh, and I almost forgot to ask you. This is a tradition here at Restaurant Unstoppable. We find all of our future guests by having my current guest call somebody out. So who is a restaurant owner or operator, somebody that you've come across over your time working in the industry that really that impresses you and that you would admire? Who should I get on the show?
I mean, you've got to get the Gorilla Cinema team out of Cincinnati. They have like 7 or 8 great spots in the Cincinnati area. They use the robots.
Nice.
They're really forward-thinking restaurant.
Gorilla Cinema, look out! I'm coming after you. I'd love to get
Gorilla Cinema. You got to get them on.
We can say goodbye now. Thanks again, Steve. I really do appreciate you taking the time to share the Bbot story and just all the benefits of using Bbot. There is no questioning. You and Bbot are unstoppable.
Thanks.
Cheers.